without video.
This meeting is being recorded.
So I wonder if we could start, appreciate everybody that's here. I wonder if we could start by just kind of introducing ourselves and saying where we're from and just a kind of a quick background. I'll start. I'm Mark Howe, Unionville, Iowa. We farm about 1,800 acres here. Farm full time and been in Red Wattles for a while now. I guess that kind of sums it up. So, Walt?
Yeah, I'm Walt Wickham. I'm vice president of the Red Wattle Association. Been raising red wattles for several years now. I can't remember when we even started. I retired from my full-time job 2 years ago and been concentrating on the farm, and we're just a small farm, 40 acres in eastern Iowa near the little town of Maquoketa. That's about it.
Brad?
Yeah, I'm Brad Kaler. I'm just here in South Dakota. I don't know what else you need to want to know.
How long have you been in the Red Wattles, Brad?
This is my first year.
Excellent. Appreciate you coming. Julia?
Yep.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julia. I'm here in British Columbia, Canada. Foolishly trying to keep red wattles alive, but it's been really difficult. I've been at it for about 4 years now. I've been farming for about 12. I raise these pigs and cattle here and direct market, and about to start building an abattoir and cut and wrap. So hopefully I'll be able to scale my business back up, because I've had to scale it way back because I can't get anything killed. So.
Gotcha. It's been tough, hasn't it?
Yeah, it sure has.
So there's a 507 number. I'm not sure who that is. Are you with us?
Yeah, it's me, Teresa.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. So Teresa up in Minnesota, I appreciate this.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to, I don't know, check in, see what's all going on, what everybody's thinking.
So appreciate you calling in, Teresa. Thank you.
Oh, you are very welcome. I was appreciative of the format.
Copper Penny Molly, I think everybody knows you, but go ahead.
I'll put myself on the screen. So hello, everybody. My name is Molly, and I am the Copper Penny Farm. I am in Austinville, Virginia, which is in no man's land in southwestern Virginia. And I have been in Red Wattles for going on 2 years now. So, and I'm the new secretary treasurer. So hello, everybody.
Thanks, Molly. Jim?
Hi, Molly.
I'm Jim Myers. I'm from Salina, Ohio. I've been raising red wattles for about 11 years. I started, well, if you can call this farming, I've got 3 acres and with some buildings on it and enough room for a few hogs. I have 8 breeding stock. It's about all I can handle. And then been started late in life with the farming just about 20 years ago when we moved on to this place. That's about it.
Appreciate it, Jim. Andy?
I'm Andy Anderson. I'm from Corder, Missouri. I've probably raised different breeds of hogs for about 10 years now. This is my first year in the Red Wattles. Looking forward to this new direction and hope to learn and network quite a bit. So.
Appreciate it. Welcome. Becky,
Hey, so I'm having video issues tonight, so now I'm blue instead of red and furry. I'm gonna turn that back off. So Becky Burkhart in Cleburne, Texas, which is not quite halfway between Fort Worth and Houston. I'm just about an hour south of the DFW Metroplex. Been on the farm since 1994. Been raising hogs. Got interested in raising hogs a few years ago and fell in love with the red wattle and got a starter deal on some you can't see the air quotes, unregistered red wattles and Mangalitsa crosses, which we just fell head over heels in love with them. But moving on, when I started trying to add registered stock, I realized that my unregistered red wattles were probably not, or crosses at best, probably are crosses. But so just I don't ever do anything halfway. My sons are 26 and 30, and my oldest lives here and works the farm full time. We've got about 14 sows running on 50 acres. We have a Mangalitsa boar that's currently out on lease, and a red wattle, purebred registered red wattle boar, and 4 mature red wattle sows and 6 younger gilts. So we're going to start transitioning the herd and go with the registered stock, with the full bred registered stock, and only keep the 3 Mangalitsa gilts or sows to keep in for the crosses. We love the red wattles and just love them more every day. So we basically sell feeders. We looked into setting up a butcher shop or processing our own, and I just don't have the resources to do that. So right now, basically what we're doing is selling the feeders, selling some breeding stock, and we've been doing pretty good with feeding them out for people. We charge either for the baby or for the whatever weight it is when they buy it, and then we charge, right now it's $80 a month to whatever weight they want, and we're building some good long-term relationships with that.
That sounds great. Dustin.
Hello.
You made it home from work. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I did. Well, I moved out onto my farmland here in the foothills of the Coastal Range in Oregon in 2015. I've been raising guinea hogs up until 2 years ago, and I linked up with some folks down in Alabama and brought my three hogs breeding trio back from Alabama. And we have a pretty small 24-acre farm. And initially the plan was to have breeding stock and do our best to spread red wattles around the Pacific Northwest. And we've been looking to gain diversity out here. Hopefully do some gene trading either this fall or next spring. But for now, we have a little bit of breeding stock. We've got a couple other farms out here in the Pacific Northwest that also do red wattles that are registered. Right now we're starting to build up a marketplace and trying to find the best way to get our hogs to market and have it make sense. Certainly finding that red wattles are a little bit more finicky in terms of guinea hogs have been finding were quite robust, and red wattles certainly aren't difficult, but they're a little bit trickier to raise out. Certainly better meat flavor, better carcass quality, but also having a hard time finding proper butcher locations, and feed costs out here have been a very difficult component for us. Yeah, looking forward into the future. Right now, I'm kind of hoping to boil down to a good group summer, and then hopefully relaunch program next spring. Kind of run this winter a little bit on the leaner side, just from a financial aspect. But hopefully start next spring with a boar and 3 sows, and hopefully do a little bit of artificial insemination with one of our sows to bring in some new genes, and hopefully launch next spring into 2023. And we've done a couple feeders, but we're mostly looking to raise out 9 or 10-month-old hogs for local delivery through half hogs. Most of our processing facilities are pretty clogged with game, and small groups like us that have anywhere from 5 to a dozen animals at a time that need to be processed, and we're not finding that there's enough capacity to handle our butcher needs out here in the Willamette Valley. So
So I'll go ahead and say that before we get to everybody else, because you kind of led into it a little bit. One of the things that we're focusing on for the June Pig Talk is marketing, direct marketing, exactly how far you want to go with that. There's a lot of people that, sell halves, quarters, whole hogs. Then they're done with their hog. And we've got some people now that are starting to sell cuts. And they've even went so far as they're doing everything with the hog, utilizing every last bit of the hog, and their returns are pretty extreme. As one guy put it, that's willing to come to the group next month and talk about it. He sells everything, including the squeal. And he's built himself a market by knocking on doors and advertising and brochures and also, I don't want to talk about the association, but I can tell you that we're working on some of that stuff for our members. And next month, we're going to focus a lot on the marketing part of things, and how you can make extra money on your hogs, and if you're willing to put in the time. And unfortunately, the processors are an issue. Hopefully they're doing some things to broaden that a little bit. I don't know about other areas, but I know in my area, they're starting to expand a little bit, either the existing markets or butcher shops, or more of them are coming on USDA sources. And, but that's something we're going to focus on in June. And like I said, we've got several guys that are going to kind of share what they've done and be able to ask them questions. And I think it'll be good for everybody. So moving on, Keith, are you there?
Yeah, Keith Clinker, Ashland, Ohio. I just have about 5.5 acres. I just started about around this time last year. I got my first hogs in April of last year. I have 2 registered sows, 1 unregistered, and then a registered boar. And we're pretty small, basically selling wholes, halves, feeder pigs, registered stock. At some point, we're going to go to selling cuts of meat as well. Basically just got moved to this place in February last year, so we're kind of trying to get everything set up as well. So going little bits at a time.
It looks like from your post that your litters are doing good and you've had some pretty good early success.
Yeah, everything's going real well here. Me and Shelly really love the pigs a lot, so we actually spend quite a lot of time out there with them and stuff. So
good.
It helps me out a lot.
Good. Joe? Do we still
one
have...
second here.
There you go.
What are we doing? Just a little about ourselves.
Just a little introduction.
Joe McCabe, Southeast Minnesota. I started out, I suppose, was it 3 years ago? I bought Teresa Schuffelbein's herd out. 3 sows and 2 boars, and moved forward from there. It's been a really slow growing process since then, but we're coming along finally. Now I'm up to close to 20 registered sows and 2 or 3 boars on hand, breeding boars at all times, and then some others for sale. I sell some breeding stock, not much, because I'm still trying to build my own herd. It's hard to sell breeding stock when you're trying to improve what you have. You're trying to do yourself. Feeder pigs, sell feeder pigs in the spring, wholes and halves, and then we sell cuts through farm markets and our online store.
That's outstanding. Nick?
Are you able to hear me?
Yep.
All right. I'm Nick Miller, Dead Mill Heritage Farms in Arkansas, north central in Melbourne. Pretty new to this whole farming in general thing. And right now I have 2 sows and 6 gilts and 1 boar. My 2 sows just had their litters, and they were a lot smaller than I was hoping for and expecting, but it is what it is. Can't change it. So yeah, I have some land that I can utilize, and I have them on about probably 2 or 3 acres worth. And I just let them pasture. Just processed my first 3 feeders 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that's just for our freezer, so we're not even selling that yet. I've been selling the piglets at this point, but I haven't had enough to really be able to make any money yet. But I mean, I can't expect to be making a whole lot of money after the first litter. So that's about it for me, I think.
So this first Zoom was basically to get to know each other, and there really wasn't an agenda. So I guess what I'd like to do instead is ask everybody, where's your interest? What do you want to talk about? What's your concerns? What's some problems you're having? What's some successes? Please don't hesitate.
I'll jump in here because I'm not going to be able to stay right to the very end because I've got another meeting. But I'm first of all, I just want to say thank you for organizing this. I think it's a great idea. So some challenges I've been having is we have a very, very limited gene pool here in Canada. So I'm a little bit distracted because I'm also training a dog. And one thing I'm finding is I'm having trouble getting even nipples or even enough nipples sometimes. I've never had this problem before with other breeds. And I'm having a hell of a time with ears. I'll finally get a perfectly good animal and the ears stick up. So I'd be curious to hear if anyone else is having trouble like that, or if it's just because I don't have enough genetics. So that's kind of what's been frustrating me in terms of getting my breeding program going, not to mention the fact that I can't get stock. I have to fly it from Ontario. We can't bring anything in from the States. The CFIA makes it impossible. So I'm so frustrated. I'm about to just, I mean, I'm really happy with the crosses I produce. I'm doing mostly purebred right now, but the crosses, they finish a little bit faster. The carcasses are amazing. You know, I get all of the really good red wattle attributes. So I may just have to give up and, you know, have a line of red wattle crosses, but that's kind of what we're struggling with here. There's really only 2 of us doing
Who
much.
would be the other one, Julia?
It's Nick in Ontario.
Okay.
So that's what we're struggling with. Yeah, I mean,
Can
like,
I ask a question? Can I break in and ask a question? When you say your ears are up, you mean like German Shepherd ears?
well, like, you know, Berkshire ears. They're not flopping over
Okay.
like they're supposed to.
Okay. When are you looking at them? How young?
Well, I've tried both ways. I've kept them. I tend to keep them for 7 months, give them a chance, and hope that something's going to start looking better. And if they don't, then they go to slaughter. I haven't.
Is AI
How-
a possibility?
Come down.
Yeah, how tightly bred are they?
They're pretty tightly bred.
That was my question.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, although that said, I haven't noticed a difference. I've been doing some brother sister, which is obviously very tightly bred, but then I did have 2 sows that were, you know, still related, but not on top of each other like that. And I didn't notice any difference. I got worse quality out of those 2. I just culled those 2 sows, broke my heart because that was the end of the new different genetics that I kept 1 gilt from like a year and a half of trying. I got 1 gilt out of it, and maybe I'm looking at 1 little boar from the last litter and seeing how
So
he's going to turn out. But
I feel like genetics and breeding is something, Mark and Molly, that we could really put a lot of effort into. My experience is more with horses than with pigs. I've been involved with breeding horses since the 80s, and our group has 18 foundation animals, and we still produce superior family performance, high performance horses. It's really difficult to do, but with pigs, it's awesome because with
it's so
horses,
quick.
well, and you can eat them, you know.
Yeah.
With
Well, you need to
horses,
move to France, and then you can open up your options.
yeah, you know, with horses, it takes a year to get 1 baby, you know, and
Mhm.
if it's not what you were looking for, you know, then you have just a certain life expectancy of the mare to have, you know, only maybe 8 or 10 babies at most. But with pigs, you have a lot more options.
Well, I should be
Would-
interested in speaking to anyone about line breeding or any other recommendations they might have, because we're really running out of options here in Canada. Someone
So,
asked about
Have you
AI.
tried artificial insemination?
I haven't, because like there just really isn't any. I can't bring it up from the States. So
Oh, you
Which
can't even bring
province
that up.
are you in?
No, I'm in British Columbia. And so it's literally, it's cheaper and safer for Nick and I to fly piglets across the country. And that's all we got.
So
When you bring up frozen semen, I know that there's still some studies out, but I know a lot of places are starting to go to frozen. You could possibly get by without the customs with frozen semen.
I don't think so.
Your litter sizes might suffer a little bit, but it would allow you to diversify if you could bring up frozen semen.
Yeah, well, my litter sizes are the least of my worries right now. I mean, yeah, but I'm pretty sure I can't bring up frozen semen. It's really frustrating, not legally anyway. If anyone wants to come for a little trip up to beautiful British Columbia,
Yeah, don't tempt me.
Well,
A
just
little
ship
bit
it
of-
in a shipper with liquid nitrogen. They wouldn't be able to just tell them it's goat semen or tell them it's for a bakery.
yeah, well, the thought has crossed my mind. If anyone's willing to do some sketchy, illegal pig semen transporter deals, I'm in.
So
Um,
Julia, a couple
That would
things.
really sound funny on the news.
So that's a quick question on your foundation stock that you do have. Were their ears upright? They were not locked at all.
No, their ears are flopped.
Their ears are flopped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's not it. I just, all I can think of is it's just the genetics are getting too close, maybe.
Mark,
So-
you've been in this for a while. Could some of that be nutrition? Because I know
No.
with other breeds,
No, not the ear. So Julia,
They're
I got a
fed
couple
really well.
questions for you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look at your registration papers if you don't mind. Okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Got it.
So one thing, the fact that you're line breeding so hard, I'm assuming hard, brother,
Well,
sisters,
not
pretty
just
hard.
the brother sisters. The other ones, I think you'll find the other two sows I transferred over. Yeah, hopefully you'll find 4 sows registered to me, but I called the 2 older ones. Those were, reasonable, a much more reasonable pairing,
So
and I had the same problems.
I know that line breeding is something I see a lot of talk about. And one thing you're doing with line breeding that's really good is the fact that you're not selling feeder pigs. You're letting them grow. You can't make any, when you're line breeding, you gotta wait until they're 7 months old because things like you're seeing show up and you gotta eat those hogs. You can't sell them. And secondly, I'll say this, Molly and I had a conversation this week ongoing with Nikki, okay, about some of the same things that you're talking about. And then I started making phone calls and I don't have an answer. But what I can tell you is that they're saying by fall that some of the restrictions going into Canada are going to get lifted.
Who's saying?
Well, I've been working with Frank Albertson, who shipped an awful lot of hogs to Canada.
Huh.
And then he started making some phone calls to people that he shipped through, going through the state or through the boundary that they have, that he has dealt with pretty regular. And he's being told that things are going to lighten up by fall. Now,
Well,
whether
that
that
would be
happens or
amazing.
not, we don't know. But I've got a lot more phone calls to make on this. There's no promises and there's nobody saying that they're going to lift these restrictions. But I want you to know that we're working on this from the south as well.
Well, it's good to hear. I'm glad you're aware of it. There's sure not many of us up here, but I've got a waiting list as long as my arm for people that want these pigs, and I just haven't had anything good enough quality to sell.
Well, what you just said is exactly what Nikki said to Molly and I also. So we need to figure out a way to get genetics lots of places and genetic diversity lots of places.
Yeah.
Not only to Canada, but also to the West Coast. And we need to get some diversity around to everybody. And I want you to understand it's only been a week that we've been here to work with the board, and the board's been fantastic. And I can tell you, it's a topic of conversation that we're starting to try to figure out an answer to.
I
So
appreciate
I
that.
will tell you that I have talked to people in the USDA on our side of the border. They have also said what you just said, Mark, that they are talking about lifting some of the restrictions to get live hogs in there that are not, there's a difference between hogs bound for slaughter and not. And the ones that are bound for slaughter have to go immediately to a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
And they have different set of restrictions, and they are talking about lifting them, and the USDA was very upbeat about the prospects of this being lifted because of the hard time that you're having in Canada and things like that. So hang on there, hold tight, because I mean, you can't find anybody more negative than a government person. And if they're happy about something, there might be something to it.
Well, I'll sniff around and see if I hear anything on the CFIA side here, but that would sure be nice.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't
they're
want
hard
to
to
take up
deal
all
with.
the time. But I just want to say I really appreciate you guys working on that. It's not my area of expertise. I don't have time to be on the board. I'm like super over committed already. But if there's anything I can do to help, please don't hesitate to reach out. I have a lot of experience with marketing and direct marketing. I have a lot of experience with processing. I've run a butcher shop and building an abattoir. I'm really good with like yield spreadsheets and all that sort of thing. So if there's anything I can do to pitch in and help, please reach out. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate everything you guys are doing for us.
Fantastic.
we will reach out. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How about anybody else? Anybody got something they want to talk about?
So one thing that I feel like needs to be talked about a little bit is basically just farrowing principles or farrowing management. I feel like there are a lot of questions that are asked. People go and they're buying these bred sows or bred gilts, and they're really excited, but they don't really understand the concept and what all goes into it. They think a pig pops out some babies, and they don't think about the shit hitting the fan. So I do get a lot of questions about farrowing and different farrowing setups, and just some like on the hand needed medical things that people may need for those processes.
Well,
One thing-
that's
Go
sorry.
ahead.
No, I was just going to say that that I have noticed that compared to our crosses, our unregistered girls and red wattle crosses, and especially the Mangalitas, the red wattles I love how chill they are, but they are not, I'm not really confident to let them farrow out on the 50 acres. Like we have an old spot red wattle cross and a couple of unregistered girls that are, possibly crosses. And the Mancalitas, I don't know if they're closer to a feral pig, but man, they go out and they'll dig a nest in the woods, and you can walk within 5 feet of them and you'll never see them unless they grunt. And about 3 days after they haven't come up to eat for about 3 days, we just go out and we walk the pasture. Pretty soon we'll hear a grunt. She's hungry, she's thirsty, and we'll be hauling food and water. But the red wattles, they're good with the babies and they love their babies. But, that's one aspect that is kind of advertised as the maternal instinct, and they're just almost so chill that, and so friendly that they almost lose some of that maternal instinct. And I'd kind of like to see a little stronger maternal instinct in them. I mean, even if it means I can't just run up and, snuggle the babies, my bottle baby, she'll let me get in the nest with her, and most of the red wattles will, but these other girls, they're gonna take care of those babies. They'll eat you, if or anything else if you try to get near the babies.
So I think that is also goes back to genetics too. Mothering, I think red wattles are known for their mothering and they're known for that. I have a sow that does farrow out in the woods, and she's a red wattle, and she raises her babies better in the woods. I've had more. The last 2 times she had them in the woods, she had all live babies and raised every single one of them. I put her
Fantastic.
into a farrowing stall twice, and I've lost a lot. She doesn't do well in a farrowing stall at all. So I think it's, to me, and I may be crazy, but to me, I think it is learning the natural, instincts of the mother. Some do not do well, and I think it's in any breed, not just in the red wattles. I think it's in any breed. It depends on that sow or that gilt, where they do best. I have some, that do great in a farrowing stall that would do awful on pasture. But then I have some that do great in pasture and do awful in a farrowing stall. I think that it's just you learning the habits and learning what your sows do best at in that aspect.
Well, we had the same situation with the old spot cross. She does fantastic out in the woods, but we had put them on a 2-acre pasture, and she lost a bunch of them. She doesn't want to be bothered. She doesn't want you anywhere near. And just that was kind of a bad, it was a tough lesson. We were trying to take care of them.
Yes. I know that people want to do pasture raised, and they want everything as natural as they can. And I endorse that, and I feel like that's, a good thing. But at the same time, no matter what breed you have, I feel like the more control you have over that situation to make yourself more profitable is having a more controlled environment. And, you can raise them on pasture and do whatever you feel as though, but when it comes time to farrowing, in my personal opinion, if they're not doing well and to have more control, it is best to have a good farrowing setup for the most achievable for the mother and for you as the farmer.
I know from our standpoint, we farrowed most of the time outside.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got and the bottom line is you got to wean as many pigs as you can.
Yes.
It's about making money, paying your bills. And Andy's seen it. We've got a big building that we're actually building stalls in. Each of them will have runs that go outside once the pigs are a certain age.
Yes.
Got one area of it that'll be heated for wintertime farrowing. Building it all ourselves, using all the lumber from a barn that we had collapse. It wasn't that old, from a snow load. Instead of trying to wean 6 or 7 or 8 pigs out on pasture, I'd rather wean 9 or 10 in a building.
Yes.
Plus I'm old.
I get the old part.
And I kind of want to be under a roof in the wintertime when it's snowing and the wind's blowing.
And I think that's the point that I was trying to make is you look at, you try to keep it as natural as you can, right? And you let them farrow out into a pasture, and then things go wrong. You lose more profit from not having that control than what profit you would have put into, building up a nice setup to prevent that.
Joe?
But at what point is there a balance between preservation of the, and I'm a preservationist. My horses are preservation, my dogs are preservation, my hogs are preservation. And at some point, there's a balance between, or for me, there is. I have a day job. My son works the farm. But at some point, there's a balance between preservation and profit. And to me, my heart is in the preservation, and I do want to make a profit on my hogs, and I do make a profit on my hogs. But at the same time, I'm still comparing, the hogs I have today. If the world goes to hell and they run off in the woods, is somebody going to be able to recover them in 2045 the way they were recovered in 1970? So that's always in the back of my head, and I feel like as custodians of a endangered breed, that's something that we have to keep in mind.
I think it's important that each individual realizes they're an individual and they need to breed and select, and in particular, select breeding stock based on the operation that they want to run at home. My hogs will run on hills. We're getting a group of hogs that have been raised in the mountains.
Yeah.
Their feet and legs are. Well, I got 4th and 5th parity sow life in the mountains. So if they've made it that long, I'm going to say their feet and legs are pretty good. And I think to each their own here, but I think we all got to make money.
Right.
And I think we all got to focus on that. And making money comes in two ways. If you're a homesteader and you're small and you've got a few sows and you're providing for your family and friends, you still got to be able to justify what you're spending. And, it's admirable. I admire those people that are doing that, but you still got to keep your cost in check, and you still got to get as many pigs as you can per litter.
So this is,
I gotta say on that aspect of it, making money, and I'm not bragging by any means. That's kind of an embarrassment. When we first got the farm 20 years ago, I was doing Hampshires and then got rid of them completely and then started the red wattles. Up until this year, I've been in the red every year. And this is the first year I've gone into the black at all. So not to discourage anybody, I'm sure that there's a lot smarter people than me that you can get in the black a lot sooner. But I'm doing it pretty much because I enjoy the animals. I enjoy the breeding and the husbandry and all that kind of stuff. So obviously it's not a profit. Profit making is not my main objective. That's all I gotta say, I guess.
Joe,
We started with it just to basically be self-sufficient or more self-sufficient, and just fell in love with the hogs, and we were going to sell our extra pigs, and we kept selling out and decided to ramp up, and it's been really good for us.
Well, the demand that I'm hearing this year all over the country far exceeds what there is for animals. And, I think there's a lot of value in preservation too, Becky. And I think that we need to, the more animals we save on the sow, the better off we are helping the breed. I understand completely what you're saying about keeping the natural instincts. I do.
Well, there has to be a balance.
Yes, I agree. So, I don't hear and see many people sticking sows in farrowing crates, red wattles in farrowing crates, and I don't think you ever will. And, you know, my pens that I'm building, most of them are 8x14. And so, and then the runs outside are going to be 8x20 and individual pins. And so they're going to have a lot of room to run. Joe, I wanted to get to you real quick. You talked about, you built those Smidley feeder or huts. Would you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, I started building them because I was having such issues like you guys are talking, that some sows would be able to do a pretty decent job and other ones would just, it was a disaster out on pasture, or even in sheds. And so I wanted to take some of the losses out and I started building those Smidley huts. And yeah, it's been great with where I'm at in Minnesota. You know, six months of the year, it's, you know, it's pretty chilly at night, below sub-zero in the winter. And I throw a little heat lamp in there and I've been having really good luck now that I've got a half a dozen of them on the ground and been farrowing in them. And as far as the natural instincts that you guys are talking, you know, that sow still has to have instincts, even in a hut or in a pen, to not lay on, because I'll have some that'll lay on them, even in the hut with bumpers and a heat lamp and everything else. And other ones are careful and they get down on their knees and they just know what they're doing. It's the breeder's job to distinguish which ones are the good ones and keep them and get rid of the other ones.
And I think that's a good point, Joe, because I think it literally goes back to the genetic line of that hog 90% of the time. I think that if you have good sows and stuff, because in every single breed, you always have mothers that do good and mothers that don't do good, right? And you keep the mothers that do good, and most of the time they produce offspring that do good also, you know. And I think that go ahead.
Most of my herd is descended from 3 or 4 lines.
Yeah.
3 probably. And you know, like I said, I'm up to 20 sows now, and just, I mean, the genetics are fairly tight, only coming from that many pigs, and they're all over the board with not only mothering ability, but color, ear sets, feet and legs, size, everything. They're just, you would never think that group of sows came from just 2 or 3 sows and 1 boar.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the red wattle is still such a new breed. We're going to see a lot of genetic variability unless we do some pretty tight breeding and lock in specific traits.
And Julia, I was going to mention when you were talking about your ear sets.
Hey, Joe, I think Julia left because she had another meeting.
Oh, I just seen her there. She must have just left.
Yep, just left.
All right.
Please send her a message. Okay.
Yeah, I can. I'll just, what I was going to say is if you're line breeding and you're getting that tight, it's not a bad thing, but you just got to be really careful because you're really concentrating those genetics. So if you're keeping some of those pigs with upright ears and you don't want it, it's going to be really hard to get rid of that moving forward.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you want to move forward is what you have to pick for when you start getting tight breeding like that.
Yeah, the thing about line breeding, it locks in traits, and the genetics don't know if they're good traits or bad traits. It just locks them in. So it's up to the breeder to call or to rebreed.
Right.
And it's absolutely critical to not try to sell feeder pigs if you're line breeding. You got to let them grow.
Right.
You mean breeding?
Awesome.
Yes. Yes. Keith,
Awesome.
you had spoken, I've seen you several times mention about with regard to farrowing and everything, kind of a list of things that you need to have on the farm. You want to kind of visit with that about a little bit?
I just took the list that was put out in one of the monthly newsletters, and then I copied and pasted it onto a Word document and then kind of put some of my own stuff on there. And then as I go, I've been just adding stuff that I know I've kind of realized that I needed here on the farm and added to that. And then some of the people have requested information and stuff, so I give that to them. And then informate that other packet that they put on the website on the pastured pork.
Yep.
And then also the one on the breed.
Yep.
Also, I wanted to say too, we talked about improving the breed. So I wanted to kind of see where we're going to go with that. And then I know everybody isn't interested in it, but for those of us that are, I know I don't have that many pigs, but like I am actually with mine, even with my unregistered gilt, I take each one of her pigs when I'm going through and notching them and cutting them. I go through anyhow and count how many teats they have. And I still kind of go through and bounce them off of the breed traits and write that down on the document and kind of judge them at the 3 to 10 days when I go through and, do my thing there. And then I keep that thing in my clipboard out there in the barn. And as they're growing and I see stuff, I still write stuff down on there. And then I think that's record keeping, on that gilt. And then you can look back on all that stuff and see where you want to go with, I think, as far as your genetics and stuff, what you need to be going for. If you need to try to find a boar or a gilt that's got a higher number teat set or something like that,
I think record keeping could be an entire meeting on its own.
I think you're right.
And
Now-
also I wanted to let Becky know, as far as the hogs go, I grew up working on farms, and I can tell you that an old man I worked for during the Depression, he set all of his Yorkshires loose back in the woods and let him go back there and just kind of kept an eye on them. And he said he lost not one of them. He said it takes them all about a month or so to go back to the wild traits. He said they were right back in there having their litters and everything, and they would go back there every so often and kill some off and butcher them. It's in most hogs. I mean, I can say that your stuff that's raised totally in confinement nowadays, the stuff that's like hardcore confinement, I don't know that 100% of would probably do it, but most of our stuff would.
Yes. I think that Keith made a good thing about keeping records or just taking notes. And the people that I have helped, like Nick on here, Denmill, I told him, I was like, I literally keep a journal and I keep pictures of everything. I started out because I didn't really know what I was doing and I was too embarrassed to ask questions when I first started. So I literally just started writing down everything. I have a huge notebook full of notes on every animal that I have, just traits and stuff. It helps me know when they're going to farrow, when they're going into heat. It helps me keep up with the babies. I judge colors. I judge everything. I keep a picture of it all. And I think if you do that, you may not have to do it as intense as I do, but keeping a record, and that way you can go back and see, and compare, really does help people. I think people forget, and then they go 10 months from now and they forget when their sow was in heat or what their babies was like. Keeping those detailed records will get you so much further and let you really get in touch with your stock.
Well, I feel like
Yeah,
I've
the
been
one
on
thing
this-
I have problems with is the ear set of what's what. And that's what I have a hard problem locating, is like the exact type of ear set that they have. I need help with that one.
So
A lot of times A lot of times they won't settle in until they're a year old
Yeah.
of what their ear set is going to be.
Yeah, and that's another thing that goes back to the coloring part of it. You know, people get really situated on the coloring, but you know, they range so far sometimes. Like I've had like basically almost orange gilt, and then when she's almost a year old, she looks almost black until she gets in the sun. So, you know, things like ear sets, everything, those little things change so much throughout their life that it's really hard to tell, you know, at such a young age.
Keith, what I can say with regard to guidance on the selection process, let's revisit this in a month and I think you'll have a different opinion on it. There's some things coming pretty quick, okay? Did we lose him?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, hang in there for the next month and I think you'll be satisfied that you've got a little more guidance and a little more knowledge on selection when it comes to these kinds of things. I think you'll be pretty satisfied, all right?
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anybody else?
No,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Rick. No, you go ahead.
Okay, you know, we're in the Appalachian Mountains and we run our hogs literally up in the mountains and through the woods and in pasture. And they are doing extremely well. And, you know, when it looks like a sow is about ready to give birth and her milk bar drops, we actually move her to some farrowing paddocks that we made, which are essentially cheap welded wire fence that's 5-6 feet tall. I've got electric fence wire running around the top to keep predators out because we got every predator known to man here. And we've got 2 strands of wire inside and we've got farrowing huts. So we've had a really good success with the sows and a very, very low mortality rate. And we're getting, you know, 12 to 14 live piglets each litter. And so they're doing really well. The mom's taking care of them. The farrowing hut works out well in terms of the mom not turning over and squishing them. And then, you know, they're raised in that paddock till they're weaned and eating, you know, solid food on their own and, you know, drinking water and everything else. And by that time they're electric fence trained and we move them into other paddocks and they're doing well.
How large is your paddock?
That each paddock is 20 by 80 feet.
Oh, okay. Okay. We have ours right now on a 2-acre paddock, the red wattles.
I think that's a good thing. I do the same thing as you do, Rick. And I think that's where the compromise comes in, to where you are letting them live out and do their natural instincts as the breed that they are by letting them pasture and forage in the woods. But the compromise to that also is bringing them down to a controlled environment just for that farrowing, you know, but you're still giving them, like Mark does and like I do also, you're giving them still that outside for them to go into with their paddocks. You know, you're still keeping the outdoors to it, and then you release them back out. I think that's where to me, I think that's where the compromise comes
Right.
into.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's, you know, as Mark said, you know, it is about making money.
Right,
And
it is.
you're not going to make money if you've got a bunch of dead pigs, you know, piglets out in the woods and you don't even know they're there. So we try to control that as much as possible. And then, you know, we release them back out into the, you know, mountainous terrain afterwards. And they do extremely well.
Nice.
Oh.
I'd love to see some pictures.
We
Rick,
can do that.
Rick, I don't think that you introduced yourself.
No, I came in late.
Yes.
So
Can you tell us?
I run Green Acres Farm, and acre is spelled as an acre, aching back. I've got we're kind of a self-sufficient homestead off-grid, and I've got over 100 head of livestock. Of course, that changes every single day with new births, and we just had one of our sows give birth to, looks like 12 piglets
Nice.
just today. So, and we just had another sow give birth 8 weeks ago. So, those are already gone to new owners, and we raise up enough pigs for us. And I've got 2 other partners in the hog venture. Everything else we're doing ourselves. So we've got dairy goats and ducks for eggs and chickens for eggs and rabbits for protein as well, and just a lot of animals that are as sustainable as we can make them, and they're all pretty much free ranging, including the hogs, though we keep them in wires. So
Where are you located?
in Western North Carolina, in the Appalachian Mountains.
The reason I ask is I don't think we're too far apart.
We might not be.
I'm about 45 minutes from, I'm an hour from Winston-Salem on the Virginia side.
We're closer to the Tennessee border.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, Rick, do you have much hog pressure where you're located?
Do I have a what?
Hog pressure. So what I mean by that is there a lot of hogs around you?
No.
Okay. I was
Not
just
at all.
curious.
No, we're away from a lot of people, and yeah, we're really kind of out in the boonies, but yeah, so there's nothing like that. No.
Gotcha. Okay.
We
I guess-
out here in the Willamette Valley, that's actually kind of a funny topic. We have a lot of kind of false red wattle pressure because there is really minimal understanding of what a red wattle is. We have an extraordinary amount of red wattles and only 3 registered red wattle breeders. And you'll see, a spotted pig that's red, that's a red wattle, no wattles at all. A black pig that's got wattles, it's a red wattle. Even the ones that kind of look like a red wattle have really horrible body structure or pointy ears, or the genetics in the Pacific Northwest are certainly a mess, including I haven't laid eyes on all 3 of the registered breeders out here, but I think that we could use some more genetic diversity from quality breeders outside of our area. I think my hogs are pretty damn good. Both of my moms are pretty damn aggressive, a lot more aggressive than I ever thought they would be. They also, they've got some freckles. I certainly, I don't know that I wouldn't have registered them if they were mine from piglets. And most of their progeny are good looking pigs. But we certainly have an interesting type of hog pressure that we certainly have a lot of various pigs out here, and a lot that are called red wattles, and very few that actually are.
So let me ask you this, Dustin, how would you progress with your genetics when you're starting to sell breeding stock? Okay. Maybe you're not there yet, but how would you handle addressing that competition that's not true red wattles?
Yeah, that's one of my bigger struggles right now. Was my plan was to be the Johnny Appleseed of red wattles out here. But I am pretty concerned about disseminating what I would consider to be good genes out and amongst lots of half breeds. And that's a really tough question. Part of it is, being careful about who you're sharing your genetics with, and the farmers you trust, and knowing that they're looking to do the same thing you are. And another thing is just me having enough genes where I am to feel comfortable that I'm selling really good quality red wattles.
Well, and it's going to come down to buyer education also. if somebody comes to your farm looking for a red wattle and they say, hey, the guy down the road has them cheaper, then you can say, well, are his hogs have the quality that mine do, and that gives you opportunity then to educate them a little bit. I mean, in a nice way, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I guess honestly, a little bit more of my concern would be less with, an understanding of quality and more of, folks that are just happy to either take them off and mix breed them, or, would be less than scrupulous with kind of trying to have quality red wattles in amongst. I actually got a red wattle, another sow that was, of registered stock, and I'm not sure after having her that she's a hog that I might take stock from, that I would really consider her to be registerable. And I know it seems like it's something that I've found talking with lots of different folks, that people are very guarded about their genes and their willingness to share their genes with other people. Certainly that's something that I've struggled with trying to get my hands on genetics. And it's certainly it's a challenge.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that if there was some clearer rules and standards and accountability within the association, do you think that would ease people's minds as far as making breeding stock available to other people within the association?
You would hope so.
Right.
If there was an easy way to, in order to have it be registered, you got to have a picture of the teat line. Got to have a picture of, the front, the back, and kind of visually express the traits we're looking for.
Right.
Certainly wouldn't hurt.
It sounds to me like in your personal situation, there's far more of a concern of getting some more genetic variability within your herd is probably more of a importance to you right now than the other end, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. And like you guys were talking about with line breeding and setting traits, et cetera, making sure that I have good quality genes to be breeding in, that I'm, making an incredible investment to have great examples of the red wattle. I certainly would want to be careful about what I am letting into my gene pool, and making sure that then what I'm also expressing and sharing is of good quality. Up with, I think, Julia that was just on here from Canada, she's probably one of the closer people to me than anybody else in the Red Wattle Association. And so it certainly is a factor of making sure we have good genes.
Well, it's pretty obvious we've got to make a focus on getting new stock to Canada and also to the West Coast, Dustin. And I know there's some avenues opening up into Colorado in 3 different places over the course of the summer. And I know stock's getting there. And there's a lot of interest in California as well as up your way. And yeah, I know Molly's working on a project now to go to California. So
Yes.
Nice.
I'll just tell you, Dustin, we're hearing you, okay?
Yeah, it's interesting. There, from what I understand, there actually is some pretty decent genes down in California.
There is. There is.
Certainly desirable genes. And I've come as, I'm from New England, so we're pretty blunt and straightforward with what we think and feel. I've badgered them down there trying to get their genes, but they're pretty guarded about, for whatever reason, politically or otherwise, sharing their genes with, other folks outside of, I guess you would say maybe their social pool. But I would love to get some genes from California, let alone, of course, AI genes and stuff from, the East Coast.
Right.
I think that there is, cause I've talked to multiple people in California that I'm trying to work with, to go out there this fall. And I think the issue is there are good lines, there's just not enough of them. So it's so small and so compacted that although they're good, they're going to be bred down if something doesn't get out there.
So I can tell you that I know about the California genetics you're talking about. I know where they came from. They're very good hogs.
Yep.
And yes, they're extremely guarded, just like the people are where they came from. Very,
Yep.
very hard to get your hands on them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying 100%. So, but again, I'm going to say, and I hate to say this, it's a focus for us on getting some things and opportunities set up. We know that the West Coast is an area where we need to get some new genetics to.
Yes.
We know that Canada is a place we need to get new genetics to, probably equally desperately. So let's see what happens here over the summer, and we'll keep you updated.
Yeah. I wouldn't have much of a problem. I'm only, I think, I don't know exactly where Julia is in BC, but I don't think I'm much more than 6 hours from her. And it wouldn't be too far fetched to get up there, meet at the border, or pop by her farm.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she's got hogs to trade back necessarily genetics wise, but certainly would be happy to help her out if I can.
Well, this
Well,
is
let's-
the kind of thing we need to see more of, is people working together instead of being so guarded. I mean, I understand not wanting your stock to go to somebody that you don't know if they're gonna, take care of them or breed them properly, but it's a preservation effort to kind of circle back to that. It's going to require the breeders working together to ensure genetics, exactly what we're talking about.
Well, our thought, Becky, was this right here was the first step to trying to get some people to know each other and get accustomed with each other more than anything else. And these kinds of things need to happen. We need to work together to make this whole breed grow and be better. And we was just kind of hoping that this was the first step to try to work towards that.
Yeah, I was very excited to see this on the calendar.
Can you not fly pigs up there to his area?
To me?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can. I'm sure you could.
Yeah, so you can. So I'm working with a breeder, and I think I looked it up because I talked to your fiance or whatever, your girlfriend.
She's my girlfriend. Yeah.
Yes, I talked to your girlfriend, and I think the farm that I was talking to, you all are only actually 3 hours or something like that from them.
No,
And-
it's more like 18, but yeah,
Is it?
we're relatively close.
Okay. But I was talking to a farm in California that I thought was close to you guys. But anyways, and we're flying some out. Some of my hogs are going to fly out there, and it's actually not as complicated as people think that it is, and it's less cost effective or less costly than driving them out there.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I've had goats shipped from Maine to me before, so that's why
Yeah.
I was wondering if you just all it
Yes.
is you put a tag on a airport approved tote. I mean, I wouldn't ship. I'd probably ship you a wean pig is what I'd be looking at, but I would just put it on there. You drop it off. They give you the flight instructions as long as the weather is abiding. They ship it. They give you the address. You go up there to a different terminal. They drop it off. And I mean, when we picked the goat up, they wanted the security guys wanted pictures with it. That's how easy it is to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely appreciate that notion. and honestly, it's a little bit stifling for me because I have been not only working initially from prying the genes out of Kansas, but then also those seam genes from California. Looking to get my hands on some of those at least somewhat local genetics, let alone genes from you, Molly, or anybody else that might have genes available. And I'm actually in the aviation industry, and we fly rescue cats and dogs from Southern California, where those folks are. So I could
Nice.
even conceivably have those thrown on an aircraft and flown up here, with some
Yeah, but
other
I would
dogs.
just
and
say
cats.
work with another breeder that's willing to work with you, get it up there, then diversify or work to get those genetics out of California. But you could have a boar shipped up to you from anywhere in the United States. I mean, I would buy the crate because it cost me as much to ship the crate back to him. If I knew it was going to cost me to ship it back, I would have just bought the crate, had him buy it and ship it to me, and it'd been my crate. That would be the only thing that I would suggest, because the return flight on an empty crate cost almost the same as what it did to ship it.
Yeah.
But I would just buy a crate from someone, have them ship that pig up to you. I think we had like $350 in shipping for that. It was a buck kid, but it was probably 30-pound kid.
The issue of sparse genetics, like we're talking about, has been around since I've been raising red wattles about 11 years ago or so. And that is one of the reasons that I started collecting semen and selling semen for red wattles, as to help that genetics get spread around. Well, the problem that my concept has is that I'm so small, I can only keep a couple of boars on hand at one time. So in order to get different genetics out and around, I would have to swap out boars more often to get to people, different genetics. And then the other thing that surprises me is that people that buy semen, red wattle semen from me, aren't necessarily red wattle people. They're people that want to crossbreed with some other breed, or just it's a wattle grower who wants to keep that isn't registering red wattles, but they want to diversify their particular genetics. And so very little of the semen has been registered in the registry as breeding. That was kind of my dream in doing the AI, was to help spread those genetics around. But I'm doing okay with the AI stuff, but people aren't utilizing it in the way that I had hoped it would be used. So that's, for whatever that's worth.
Have you ever talked to a boar stud? I know SGI is doing a lot of frozen semen now. Someone like that might be able to get in, capture some of your genetics, freeze them, and then as things need to be diversified in the future, you would be able to have kind of for lack of a better term, a screenshot of the present of your boars.
You saying I would ship them semen to freeze?
SGI is a boar stud, so either you'd make arrangements to ship the boar to them, they would collect him and then make a deal with you, or they could actually collect him and freeze it, and then you just keep it in a liquid nitrogen tank, or they could store it. Like I have a liquid nitrogen tank on premise, so I store semen on premise.
I know of SGI, and I've never contacted them about storing frozen semen. I've never gone the frozen semen route because of what you had said earlier about it not holding up well, especially the hog semen. Most bore studs don't freeze their semen for that reason. They ship it fresh overnight. Now, like you said, the people like SGI who ship all over the world would be doing a much better job of freezing it and getting it out to people. But most of
I've
that
talked with
frozen
SGI about it. They have actually come quite a ways because I've raised other breeds of hogs too. They've come
Right.
quite a ways with it because I'm such a small producer. Buying, like you said, chilled semen, I have to buy it pretty local because if it can't get to you in a day, you're with cost of shipping now is in lack of guarantees. But SGI's come a long way with the technology on frozen semen parts. So that might be something to help everybody and the association in the future, especially if we started to get some semen banked. As things get line bred or tighter bred, you'd have some boars you could go back to, even if it was just as, we were talking about preserving the breed, we would still have
Right.
some genetic pool to go back to pull out of.
Well, I'm not discounting what you're saying. That would be good to look into. I think one of the things that they would look at is would the volume be there and worth their effort to do that with the red wattle?
With regard to the variability in genetics, I think earlier Dustin touched on it. I don't think it's a matter of not having enough variability. I think it's a matter of getting some people to release what's out there.
Okay.
I think there's several good sized breeders or good sized groups within the association that have some pretty good animals and pretty good stock. And it's a matter of, number one, getting them to maybe release some of those genetics. And number two, there's some good genetics out there that people aren't discovering and not necessarily seeing because they're not selling a lot of breeding stock. And I know down in the Southeast in particular, there's some pretty good hogs down there. And
Now, if I was gonna say, if SGI would do that, what Andy's talking about, that would be something other breeders around the country could do with a boar, would be to have it sent to SGI to keep and get a lot of diversity that way, like you're talking about, Mark.
Yep. I'm familiar with SGI. They do a nice job. Anybody else have anything tonight? I was worried about making it an hour and we went an hour and a half on our first one. So I guess I'm pretty happy with that.
It's been good.
Well, like I said, next month, we're going to focus pretty hard on marketing. Got some good people that are going to kind of lead the conversation. For July, I guess we'd like some suggestions from everybody and we'll probably post that as well. So we got our feet wet and I think it went well and I appreciate everybody that was involved, and I guess we'll call it a night and talk again next month. Real quick, don't forget our meeting, the third Thursday of the month. What is that, the 19th, Molly?
Yes. Mhm.
And we'll post a agenda or email an agenda ahead of time for the meeting so everybody kind of has an idea of what to expect. And I guess we'll see you then. So everybody have a good night.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank
Nice to
you.
meet
Thank you,
everybody.
Mark, it's good meeting all of you.
See ya.
Likewise.